Ethan asked, do you think Michigan's recent recruiting shortcomings relative to their standards will affect their next season or two in a significant way, or will player development and other players be at a high enough level to compensate? From Indianapolis, Indiana. Ethan makes an interesting point, or rather, he asks an interesting question here. This is a question a lot of people in our industry are wondering. So Michigan's won back-to-back Big Ten championships. They've gone to back-to-back playoffs. Harbaugh flirted with the NFL one time really seriously, another time pretty seriously, but now he feels like he's set at Michigan for a little while. And history tells you they should be top 5 recruiting right now. And they're not. They're not bad, but they're not an elite recruiting outfit. And Ethan's asking, will the fact that they're not parlaying that success on the field to big-time recruiting off the field, will that catch them? Will that cost them? And so the follow-up was, or are they just developing players good enough where they don't have to recruit top 5 classes? There's a healthy mixture of both. I would love to see them up their recruiting efforts a notch. And there are some early returns in this recruiting cycle that they're doing that. So I don't want to sell them short. And also, you got to keep in mind, this is the transfer portal era, and they've done a really good job, especially this last cycle, in the portal era. And they're not a poverty program, so they're not having to go out and just wholesale patchwork their roster with desperation additions out of the portal. They're able to say, okay, we don't really need anything, but we want a few pieces. Let's go into the portal. Let's be selective. And they've done that, and they've been fine. But they were 13th in 2021. They were 9th in 2022. They were 17th this past recruiting cycle. That's just high school recruiting. And so under Jim Harbaugh, if you just add it all up, they average about the 14th rated class in the country. And Ethan, if you develop like they do, and you have just a rock solid culture and identity, and there's no doubt who you are and what you're about, I think it's good enough. Well, here's what it's good enough to do. It's good enough to do what they've done the past 2 years. It's good enough to win the Big Ten. It's good enough to beat Ohio State. If you operate at a high enough level, if you execute in that game, it's good enough to do that. And it's good enough to get you a Big Ten championship and get you to the playoff. I don't think Michigan is the caliber of program right now that could run up against a Georgia or an Alabama in the playoff, or TCU as it turns out. But I think about that game a little bit differently. But run up against Georgia the year before, Georgia does the same stuff you do. They develop their players too. They have a rock-solid culture too. They have a firm understanding of their identity too. The difference is they got better players than you, and they do all that stuff. So when that's the matchup, you saw what happened 2 years ago in the playoffs. And it would be the same way against an Alabama if you had to run up against them. So if what Michigan's doing now is good enough, and I don't want to sound like, a couple of questions ago when we were talking about these people who don't understand how good it is to be at the level that a Michigan or a Penn State is right now. I don't want to talk like that. I don't want to sound ungrateful or unappreciative or myopic. But you also have a window. We have windows in this sport, and you never know how large your window is going to be. And Michigan's in a window right now, a national championship window. Are they going to be able to get one? That we don't know. But I will tell you, Ethan, if they don't bring a different caliber athlete on campus, I don't know that I foresee on the horizon them matching up with the Alabamas and Georgias of the world in the playoff and coming out on top. Now, it's a 4-quarter scenario. It's one game. So who knows? Any given, we played the title games on Monday. Any given Monday. Yeah, how authentically college football is that phrase? Don't get me started. But I do appreciate the development up there. I do appreciate the culture. I do appreciate the identity.